for waiting and thank you for joining us this morning. You're all very welcome, and us at Moracle are very happy to have you with us. So this webinar is hosted by Moracle Limited, and we're an award-winning accounting and auditing firm that is based in the UK. My name is Tara, and I'm a current intern here, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. So today we'll be discussing about how research and development can further expand your business. And as well as this, you'll be able to learn more about how Moracle can help to support you with this aspect of your company. So we're incredibly lucky to have Gina Redman with us today as a guest speaker. And Gina works for research and development specialists who are in partnership with Moracle. And her team works to identify firms that have engaged in research and development and see them through the R&D tax relief process. So she'll be giving us a quick talk about how you might tap into research and development and explaining the basics for us. So following this, we'll have a brief word from our managing director, Mr. Moracle, and then we'll have some time to ask Gina a few questions. I really hope that you enjoy this webinar and are able to take something valuable to use in your own business. So with that, I once again thank you for being here and now invite Gina to begin. Thank you.
Hi everyone, good morning. I'm just going to share my screen very shortly. Hope everybody's well. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Can everybody see that? Is everybody more live? Do you want to give me the nod if you can see my screen? Fantastic. So my name is Gina. As Tara said, I work for a company called RDS, Research and Development Specialists. My role within the company is sales manager. So I have a team of business development managers, and we are on the sales side of the business. There's a few departments in our business. We have an admin department and we have a financial analyst team as well that deal with the technical side of the R&D claims. So just by kind of way of intro. Okay. So our business started in May 2017. It was founded by our current and continual managing director, Mark Joyner. So we have just celebrated our 6th birthday. Due to investment backing last year from a company called BGF, the Business Growth Fund, we currently have 30 staff across the organisation and we are a growing company. We do have a family-run business at Culture, and RDS is part of the BSE group of companies. So our umbrella company is BSE, which is Business Support Experts. Underneath that umbrella company, we have RDS, which focuses purely on the R&D tax relief. Our sister company underneath the same umbrella is CAS, and they focus on capital allowances, mostly embedded capital allowances, which is something that accountants don't generally deal with. CAS is in the very early stages. And we are currently working on training up the staff and everything on the capital allowances side of things. So just for kind of the future, it will be a further service that we will be offering to our clients and our partners. But as it currently stands, we are purely focusing on R&D tax relief. So just to talk a little bit more about our investment backers. BGF, the Business Growth Fund, they have 2.5 billion invested into over 400 UK companies. They themselves are backed by the likes of Barclays and HSBC. As I'm sure you can appreciate, we had to go through due diligence with the investment backers, and the result of them backing us and supporting our business has given us huge credibility in the field of R&D tax specialists. Also last year, it was a busy year last year, we developed our client hub. And it essentially gives transparency and openness to our clients. It's a platform that they can log into, and it lets them know the process of their claim, where they're currently up to. They can communicate with us via the platform, book calls, etc., etc. And there's also a project tracker in there as well. So for future claims, and where we do look to work with our clients for a number of years, for their future claims, they can. It's just an awful lot easier because they can track their projects as they're happening. There's a voice note feature on there and things like that, which is a really popular tool among our clients. So that's sort of up and running now. If you do work with us, you do get a dedicated account manager and you do get a dedicated financial analyst assigned to your case. Like I say, the account management team is my team, and the financial analysts are the guys that deal with the technical side of everything for you. One thing that I think is very high priority at the moment is that there is a little bit of a crackdown HMRC, and there have been some compliance checks and things like that. There are some companies out there that will not defend the work that they've done to HMRC if there is any questions. So that is something that we're really focusing on. If HMRC do question your case, we do defend this and there is no extra cost. So we defend the work that we submit to HMRC essentially for you. We've got a quality and compliance manager who this is basically his role to ensure that everything is compliant and above board. So we currently work with over 450 accountants who service our client base. 200 plus of those accountancy practices are partners with RDS, and they trust us and refer their clients to us for their R&D claims. Currently have over 800 active clients on our books, and we are currently finding around 7 million a month in eligible spend for those clients. Over the 6 years, we found over 240 million in eligible spend, unlocking 45 million in tax relief for our clients. Our uphold rate is 99%. And just a little fact, the average UK claim is just over the £50,000 mark back into your business as it currently stands. So we are based in the UK. We do have clients across the UK. But our head office is here in Altrincham, where I am today, just outside Manchester. We've recently opened in January of this year a office in Birmingham, which enables us to reach our clients in London and sort of the Midlands around there. And we do have a satellite office in Nottingham as well, where our managing director is based. So one of the things about us as well is that if you do come on board with us and trust us with your R&D claim, we do all the work for you. We only ask for literally maybe 2 to 3 hours of your time through the whole process from start to finish. So, we really try and take as little as your time as possible. We appreciate that you've got businesses to run, as have we. So we enable you to get on with that while we get on with your claim. So just like to talk a little bit about our partnership with Moracle. So Moracle were wanting to extend their services and their products to their client base. So we started speaking with Moracle, and myself and Morlai started speaking potentially 3 or 4 months ago, Morlai maybe. And because they wanted to ensure that they worked with a specialist, and if they were providing R&D as a product and a service, they wanted to ensure that they were partnered with the absolute best to ensure that their clients are serviced in the correct way. So fast forward a few months, we've now got a fantastic working partnership. We've already assisted a client of Moracle with their claim successfully, and we're building on that partnership on a daily and a weekly basis. So, and that's what brings me here to talk to you and to talk to Moracle. So fantastic partnership so far. So what is research and development? I'm just going to quickly put this up here because I'm not going to read all these word for word. I'm just going to talk how I would talk to a new client. So essentially the HMRC definition of R&D is a project that seeks an advance in science or technology. So I always think when I'm speaking to a potential new client about the kind of things that qualify, as soon as I say a project that seeks an advance in science or technology, the client goes, what? I'm not doing that. That sounds far too scientific. It sounds like, only people working in labs coming up with new medicines are going to be applicable to this work. But actually, when you break it down, that advancement can be not always a new product from the ground up or a development of a completely new product. It can be an appreciable improvement to an existing product or process in order to essentially make things better, faster, stronger, lighter, cheaper, more efficient. So when I break it down when I'm speaking to a client, I generally say, what are you doing that is better than what is already out there? What are you offering that is cheaper or more efficient or greener than what is already out there? And how have you gone about doing that? And realistically, that's basically what it is. If there is no off-the-shelf solution to the problem or the work that you've got on, and you are having to develop something new or make, like I say, appreciable improvements to something that's already there, then essentially, as long as we can factor in the other elements of what we need to look for qualifying R&D, then generally that's the best starting point. So what I say is that we need to identify an element of innovation. We need to identify the advancement in science or technology, the advancement that it's making to your industry. And we need to identify the technical challenges and uncertainties that you faced along the way. So those are the general things that we're looking for when we're building up an idea of the projects that you've taken on. So one of the examples that I generally use for this is the wheel, the basic wheel. So it started with the stone circle. Somebody else came along and decided to put rubber on it, making that appreciable improvement. Somebody else decided to fill that with air, again, making that appreciable improvement. And then the innovation has continued and continued with all-weather tyres and etc., etc., etc. The innovation is continual and the advancements are continual. So again, appreciable improvements. Just a few buzzwords there. What were the challenges? Where were the advancements? What have you modernized or modified? What have you improved or adapted? Word emulates there as well. What have you done to potentially, this word kind of comes about a lot in food manufacture. So there's a lot to do with emulating, with vegan and vegetarian foods and things like that. What are they doing to emulate a real meat, for example, if they're coming up with a vegan meat alternative? What are they doing to emulate and make that taste and look and the texture the same as the meat alternative, for example? Again, safety is there. Health and safety is massive. What are you doing to improve, to modernize, etc., etc.? So the key sectors that we look at for research and development: manufacturing is massive, construction, massive, engineering. Software development is a little bit tricky these days. Software development and tech is so fast moving that some things in software development that would qualify for R&D even 2 years ago potentially might not qualify now, because it's done and it's out there and it's readily available information, and it's no longer a technical challenge or an uncertainty. So things like APIs, for example, plug-in things like WhatsApp into CRM systems, that used to be R&D because it wasn't readily available information. People were having to figure out how to do it themselves. They were having to create and develop new pieces of technology to ensure that that happened. Whereas now those pieces of technology are either off-the-shelf solutions that are readily available, or the information is readily available as well. So that brings me to talk a little bit about if somebody was wanting to develop something and they looked at something that was already out there. Say if you had a couple of camper van conversion companies, for example, one's one end of the road and one's the other. The one end of the road has made this really great, lightweight, super efficient pop top for camper vans. And the camper van guy down the road wants to do exactly that, because he realizes that that's an advancement to the industry. That's how he's going to be able to sell more camper vans. So the guys that have already come up with it haven't put it on Google as to how they came up with it. They haven't made a YouTube video so that everybody else can do exactly the same. So camper van conversion company down the road has to figure it out by themselves. They know what they want to achieve, but essentially it would still be their R&D, because they're going to go about it in a different way. They're going to test with different materials. They're going to do different prototypes and, you know, look at different ways of making it energy efficient, etc., etc. So both companies would essentially have R&D because that information isn't readily available. So it's when the information becomes readily available that it starts becoming not R&D. So, you know, these key sectors, that's not it. You know, qualified R&D can be undertaken in any industry. And there are some industries that I've spoken to previously that I've kind of scratched my head and thought, why are we having this conversation? I can think of one off the top of my head was a hairdresser phoned me. And actually, when I spoke in a lot more detail about the projects that he'd taken on, he was coming up with a new way of hair growth for people that had been victims of burns, or, you know, gone through chemotherapy and things like that. And the science behind what he was doing was absolutely astonishing. But it was a hairdressing company, so it's quite easy to kind of write off industries, but really what I always say is let's have that conversation, because we don't know what you're doing. So I'm not going to read through all of these because I have just kind of spoken about a couple of examples, but there's a few examples there of, you know, the kind of work that you might be carrying out in manufacturing. A lot of the things that we see in manufacturing is, you know, what are they doing to increase productivity in their production line? There's a lot of technology being put into and modifications being put into machineries and things in order to be able to produce more of their product. Robotics and things is quite big in manufacturing at the moment. Obviously, you've got your usual there, your pharmaceutical research into drug discovery, construction, like I say, fairly massive because they're constantly coming up with new, you know, new improved ways of construction, and obviously putting new technology into buildings, etc. So just a few things there for you. So HMRC in 2001 decided to come up with this tax relief scheme for R&D. So the idea behind it was to boost the economy, to reward companies who are innovating with a tax relief. So when we identify the projects that the company have taken on, we essentially qualify them for R&D activity, and we say, that's fantastic. We've got projects that we can document to back up your tax relief claim to HMRC. So then alongside that comes the financial side of things. So we basically look at the business accounts, we look at payroll, we look at subcontractor invoices, etc. And there are certain elements of costings that run through the business that we can recover back for research and development tax relief. So some of the costs that can be looked at are the main ones, are generally salaries, national insurance and pension contributions of the people that are working on R&D projects. The subcontractor costs are generally the next highest costing. So anybody that they've kind of drafted in to manufacture, fabricate, you know, make obviously the project happen. We can look at some of the costings based on that. Some of the other costings we can look at: material wastage that's consumed during a project. So we'd be looking at prototypes, things like that, you know, you've then got to throw that material away. Again, that's fairly high in food manufacturing because of the, you know, the different sort of tests that they have to run. And then obviously that material can't be used again. So we can look at the percentage of utilities as well. So gas, electric, water, anything that, say if there was extra utility costs to do with machineries that's running for the R&D project or the manufacturing of, then we can look at a percentage of those, and we can look at a percentage of software licenses as well. So all of those costings, it's a percentage of most of them. So, for example, the salaries and wages that I spoke about being sort of one of the biggest costings generally. We would have payroll in front of us, and we would say to the client, okay, so we've got Joe Bloggs here on payroll. He's an operations manager, so he's kind of quite involved in R&D activity. And we would basically say, how many days a week do you think Joe Bloggs spends on R&D activity? And if between us and the client, we decide that they maybe spend 1 day a week on R&D activity, we would be able to take 20% of their wage, national insurance and pension contributions. That then goes into the pot. We do that for everybody on payroll, and it goes into the pot. It can be indirect R&D activity as well, because we can sometimes look at a very small portion of an admin person's role, etc. If there was any sort of brainstorming sessions that they've attended, etc. So we go down the list and we do that for everything. Salaries and wages go in the pot. Material wastage goes in the pot. Again, a percentage of the subcontractor invoices go into the pot. Anything we can attribute to R&D activity. That pot then makes what we call your eligible R&D expenditure. Okay. So pre-April 2023. So as it currently stands, if we're doing retrospective claims for clients, because you can go back 2 financial periods, we are generally working on this calculation as it currently stands. And I'm only saying that because there've been changes to the scheme, but nothing too major. So you've got your eligible expenditure that we've got from all of those different areas. That eligible expenditure is then enhanced by 130%. So that's the incentive, that's the tax relief. The client then receives 19% of that figure if they are a profit-making business. That's because that's the corporation tax rate, and it is essentially a corporation tax incentive. If it's a loss-making company, they need to take a surrender rate, so they need to take cash because there is no corporation tax to settle or reduce. So they receive that at 14.5% of that enhanced eligible expenditure. So it gets a little bit complicated because some loss-making companies may be eligible for a super deduction, which gives them an extra 100% tax relief, but I won't go into that too much. That would be a conversation between yourselves and our technical guys and your accountant, of course. But essentially, keeping it really basic, for every £100,000 in eligible spend, the client will receive $24,700 in R&D tax benefit. So the way that you receive that under the scheme is essentially it's a conversation with your accountant, because we don't necessarily know your current tax status as a company. But essentially, if there is, say if we were going back 2 years, chances are your corporation tax would have been settled. So if we find any R&D tax relief in a year where your corporation tax has been paid, then you would essentially get a refund, because that's overpaid corporation tax. If you've got an outstanding corporation tax liability, the R&D tax relief would essentially either reduce that, or in some cases completely wipe it, depending on how much we find for you. And if it wipes it, then you take the rest. If there's any overlapping, you take the rest at that 14.5% cash surrender rate. Okay. So for future years, so for you, if you do a relief, a claim for your current year or future years, there is also the ability to carry that forward to offset any future corporation tax as well. So that's just a few ways that you can take the relief. So the R&D calculation post April 2023. So there were some changes on the 1st of April 2023. These are, I believe, interim changes. I think they are looking at merging the whole scheme, because there's currently an RDEC scheme, which is for very large companies. It sounds like they're looking at merging the schemes later down the line. But as it currently stands, any claims in the tax year that started after April 2023, the enhanced rate on the eligible expenditure has been reduced to 86%. but the tax relief has gone up to 25% for profit-making businesses. Unfortunately, for loss-making businesses, the cash surrender rate has been reduced to 10%. So in a lot of instances, because that cash rate has dropped quite significantly, it would probably be the advice of your accountant to carry forward, essentially. So because the cash surrender rate is just, it's kind of making it a little bit more tricky. But the bottom line figures on this, because of the enhanced rate dropping, but the tax rate getting more, for every £100,000 in eligible spend under this new scheme, the client will receive 21,500 in R&D benefit. So realistically, when you look at currently 24,700, now 21,500, it's not masses to companies that are investing quite heavily in R&D. So we're not anticipating too many concerns on that one. That's pretty much it from me. That's pretty much all I've got. I guess hand back for any questions, and I think a little bit from Morlai, but there's my contact details there. I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody. I'm happy to talk about anybody's business, yeah, give me an email or a call. Happy to chat.
Thank you so much, Gina. I think just before we jump into questions, we'll just have a brief word from Morlai, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. I am so happy and grateful to be here this morning and to share this good news with those of you who are here this morning. And thank you, for taking the time out to be here. For those who are going to be listening, on the replay out there, thank you for taking the time to do that. Thank you also to the team at Moracle. We've got the best team in-house. I have no doubt in this. And for Gina, for you to lead today, this webinar, we are grateful to you. But let me, take this opportunity to thank Gina and the team at RDS Research and Development Specialists. You guys make things look simple. Yes, I'm telling you, you make it look simple. And thank you very much, for the service and support that you give to us at Moracle and the team as well. We appreciate you and to the team, and then just pass on our thanks to them. I mean, you wouldn't believe this, what Moracle is about. It's about transforming the lives, for our clients and our staff. Yes. And this morning, I just want to just take a little bit, to focus a little bit about what you guys have done. I know we talk about R&D, but this is beyond R&D. Yes. And you have managed, to allow and make this happen for Tara Clark, who is our intern. Yes, to be able to, to host this program. So I just want to take this point to thank Tara, and then the team at Moracle for doing this, but Tara leading and presenting this, as an intern Moracle. And that's what Moracle is all about. Yeah, so thank you. I really, really appreciate this. And I want to acknowledge that. Well, let's talk a little bit about R&D. I like talking about success story, and having worked with yourself, Gina, and the team, and seeing your success stories and the claims, R&D claims that you have put on behalf of other businesses and our clients, we, honestly, we had no doubt, that this, collaboration or partnership relationship was going to work and then move to the next level. No doubt whatsoever at all. And for us at Moracle, through the way we work, we got this Moracle accountancy formula that we work closely with our clients. basically what we do is we emotionally get involved in our client's business, which means that we're delivering the service which is beyond what we say, beyond the numbers. We're having to sit with a client, talk to a client, get engaged with a client, know the numbers inside out. And by so doing, we have been able to identify quite a lot of activities or movement, which we will say probably, linked to, R&D. And as we know, R&D is all about innovation. Yes. Some of our clients, businesses, they have developed new innovative products or processes, that they're actually working on at the moment. And we can identify potential eligible, expenditure for this HMRC tax credit. And to come to, this point and then work with a specialist like yourself, it just makes life much, much, much easier.
Has he just dropped out for anybody else or just me?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
I think we might just wait a moment.
Yeah.
If he's still responsive, maybe we might move on to the questions.
Yeah, of course, no problem. It's just frozen, isn't it?
It's frozen.
I think what would be quite good to pick up on at this point was just to pick up on what Morlai was just saying. Oh, he's left now. He's probably trying to log back in. That from our point of view as well, the way that you guys work and that you are involved with your clients and you are talking to them about what they're doing makes for a fantastic partner for us, because you're talking to your clients, you're finding out what they're doing, you're having those conversations whereby you might be going, oh, hang on, that sounds like you might need to have a little chat with Gina. So, from our perspective, the way that you guys work is fantastic.
Yeah, thank you, Gina. Molly always speaks about being emotionally involved with our clients. Yeah, so that's something that we always try to do.
Yeah, and it's a real I think that's great for accountants to be out there visiting their clients, to be talking and like you say, go beyond the numbers and actually sort of get into their business and really find out what makes them tick, and even sort of future plans as well. You might get into that conversation whereby your client says, well, this is what we're actually planning on doing further down the line, and it kind of puts them on the radar that it might be something that they're eligible for, even if it is a year or two down the line. But those things only come about by having conversations and going past the numbers.
Yeah, true. He always says that he doesn't want to be a boring accountant who just sits behind the computer. Yeah. So yeah, we always make sure to connect clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we think?
Yeah, just I would say that thanks a lot actually for the clarification, because what is out there is the name research and development, and normally traditionally it is associated with big companies, big boys, I would say, pharmaceutical industries and so on and so forth. So with the smaller clients, but with your knowledge of this is really, it's important to say, well, if it's an innovation and it improves. In fact, I like the wheel example. Yeah. Yes. So the wheel was there originally, and the number of things were basically added on to improve it. So
exactly,
it's really a nice thing, and indeed it's nice you shouted out on that one, where now our eyes are going to be even wider open to see what are those things that our clients are doing and that actually fall under that. And and then we just point them to you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and appreciate your point there on you know, that you think that it's kind of out there, that it's only available to very large clients, but that's why they've got two separate schemes. So I only very briefly touched on it, but if you know, if we've got a bit of time while Morlai gets back on, you've got the SME scheme, which is essentially the scheme that I was talking about, with the uplift of the 130 and the tax relief. And then for very large clients, you've got the RDEC scheme. We cover both. We've got an RDEC specialist here, so we can work with the larger clients, but generally they are companies that have over 500 staff and over an 85 million turnover. So just to put that on your radar, and they, as it currently stands, they get qualifying expenditure, but they don't get an uplift. So there's no real sort of tax incentive, so they get qualifying expenditure, and as it currently stands, I believe they get 13% of that, and then after the April 2023, they're actually incentivizing large clients a lot more, because they're giving 20% of the eligible spend after 2023. So just to kind of give you a little bit of a flavour of that. But Morlai's back in the room. You froze, Morlai.
Well, this is you know, this is technology for you. And, I'm sure, you know, Siri must have been listening to my conversation, you know, and then and he misheard my, you know, he misheard what I was saying, and then he decided to shut me down. All right. So AI, yes, be careful.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
But really sorry, yes, I got knocked off, you know, connectivity my end. But no, all I was saying was just thank you. You know, it's this win-win-win situation for all of us. Yes, our clients, you know, really, you know, their cash flow, as we know, cash flow is king. Yes, they are actually, you know, in a position whereby, you know, their cash flow, yeah, is been healthy. You understand, and we are part of that, and you guys are coming in and be part of this, you know, win situation. And Moracle, at the end of the day, you know, is benefiting as well. So it's a win-win-win for all parties involved in this, you know. And I'm so grateful, you know, to be in this situation, you know, working with you guys. But I just want to talk about this briefly, you know, about this Moracle accountancy formula that we apply Moracle. This is just not another kind of blueprint we're talking about here. It's all, you know, to do with a gateway, yeah, to a resource of unparalleled opportunities. You know, this morning, my colleagues was giving me a formula this morning, and he's talking about, you know, people say luck is preparation, you know, meet, you know, opportunities. That's what people call, you know, luck. And we say, well, there's a lot of opportunities, and this is one of them. Yes, for us with our client. Yes, yeah. It's not only about the numbers, it's about identifying, you know, what you call, you know, multiple sources of income, other sources of income for a client, not just their normal business activities where they generate income. It's about other sources of income. And for us, identifying this scheme definitely is going to help, you know, some of our businesses that we're going to work with, you know. So really thank you, you know. And if you're out there as a client and you're thinking about this, you know, it is real. It is real. One of our clients that we worked on recently, we have been successful, you know, to bring in over £500 million, yes, for our client through this scheme, this R&D, you know, tax relief. So if you're out there, you know, thinking about, you know, well, hold on, should I do this or not do it? Come and speak to me, you know, and the experts, you know, RDS, they're out there, you know, we can find the time, non-obligatory, you know, we can sit down and have this conversation with you, you know, and then help you, you know, to unravel, you know, kind of this minefield. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So now we'll go into questions. So everyone who's joined us here, feel free to write down your questions as I'm speaking to Gina. And when I'm finished, you can either raise your hand or leave your question the chat and we'll answer them. So I've compiled a couple questions that I wanted to discuss with Gina. So research and development, we know that it's a very big thing to some firms, and it might be challenging for them given the funding and skill that it requires. So Gina, what would be your biggest advice that you could give to a business that wants to tap into R&D?
If it was something that they were looking at in the future, like you say, tap into, my biggest piece of advice would be talk to a specialist. We can advise. There's an awful lot of people I speak to that are just starting out. Maybe they've just made their company limited and they already carry out R&D activity, or they're looking to start a new project, and they kind of want to know if it's likely to qualify. I'd say just pick up the phone and let's have that chat, because we can talk you through, you know, what you might be able to do in that project that would tip it from, you know, not qualifying to qualifying activity, or you know, if there's definitely R&D qualifying activity there, we can talk you through how best to sort out your accounts so that we can then maximize your claim at the end as well. Because there's quite a lot of the costings that people don't understand or realize that we can look at. So we can talk you through kind of everything to start you off on the best footing, essentially.
Okay, thank you. I really liked how you discussed about the hairdresser that was looking for other ways to grow hair for...
I wasn't planning on speaking about them, but it just came to my mind as one of the strange industries I'd spoken to.
I found it really interesting. It's quite different to the traditional, maybe pharmaceuticals or construction. And I was thinking, what is another exciting, innovative projects that you've come across, and how did your team, research and development specialists, assist them?
So I would say I've got one client that always springs to mind when I'm asked, you know, what's your most interesting client, or, you know, the one that's really sort of gripped your attention. So we've got a client, everything's under NDA, so I can't go into specifics, but they do a lot of work for the military and defence industry. They do a lot of work for the MOD, hence why we're very tightly under NDA with them. But some of the products and the innovations that they come up with in their business, honestly, I went and sat in front of these clients and they were showing me some of the products that they come up with. And, you know, just as one example, they had they developed a piece of clothing for the military, that essentially, if the enemy was searching for them using infrared or heat detection in Arctic conditions, this piece of clothing stopped them from being able to detect any heat or anything through those infrared cameras. There's a lot as well they do with drone technology, in order to be able to find people in the field that are potentially injured and or lost, or, you know, to be able to obviously recover them and help very quickly. So yeah, loads of fascinating stuff. I love going to see them.
Really exciting. I'd say that today we've discussed really a lot of the positives and maybe successful projects that are carried out. And I'd say that it's also really key to recognize when things do not go exactly as planned. And I'd say that although it can be discouraging when research and development is not entirely successful, but what would you still say that there are important decisions that one can learn and still be able to take away from innovation that doesn't exactly go as planned?
Well, I mean, it depends what you mean by sort of not quite going to plan, because we can spin a positive off of this. And I don't think I covered it in my presentation, but there are actually some failed projects that we can claim for. Because essentially with R&D, you know, you've got your project driver, you've got the reason that you're going to come up with this new product or, you know, improvement to a product. So you've got your project driver, and then it's kind of everything that leads up to that is the R&D activity. So if you get towards the end of a process and you're testing it, potentially testing to destruction, and you know, prototyping and things like that, and you're just not getting where you want it to be, you are essentially still carrying out R&D activity. So we can look at a claim based upon the fact that that project has failed. So you can spin it in a positive light, that if it hasn't quite gone to plan, then there could still be some tax relief there for you anyway. If you mean down the route of it hasn't gone to plan, as in, you know, there might have been a HMRC question, or, you know, things like that, then I think the thing that you need to take away from that is that we will do our absolute utmost to help and assist and defend your case to HMRC, and if it doesn't go to plan, and you know, they're sort of saying that you know, it's not qualified R&D activity, then the other positive that I can take from it really is that, you know, if you've already paid our fee by that point, we do fully refund that. So, but yeah, I think potentially lessons to be learnt if it doesn't quite go to plan is, again, speak to us when you're at the start of whatever it is that you're going to do, and we can help essentially at that point.
Thank you. I think that's really helpful to know that even if R&D is not entirely successful, that you still might be able to be eligible and claim tax relief on that. And I remember you discussed some of the qualifying costs that can be eligible to claim relief on. And could you please maybe give us an idea of some of the qualifying costs that maybe your clients are not always completely aware about, and are quite surprised when you tell them that, oh, you may be able to claim a credit on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most people, if they've done a little bit of research, or they've had a you know, little bit of a conversation with their accountant before speaking to us, most people are aware of the wages element and the subcontractor element. Everything else is generally a surprise. People don't generally realise that they can claim for travel expenses. So if, for example, my company that develops products for the MOD, for example, if they had to fly to China, for example, to source new materials, or to, you know, even potentially buy products that they're then going to reverse engineer and you know, and improve when they get back, we can look at the travel costs to do with that sourcing of that material, because it is all attributed to the R&D project. So the only thing with travel costs is that they have to be reimbursed travel costs. So it has to be the individual that pays for their travel costs, and then the company has to reimburse them, so for them to be eligible. So that's generally not something that people know, and generally people are quite surprised when we say about a percentage of utilities as well.
Since you were discussing about travel costs and things like that, I also wanted to just quickly ask, you know how many firms today might have a headquarters in one location and then have several operations in other places? Does the location of where your R&D takes place, does it affect your eligibility for tax relief?
As in, do you mean if it was being manufactured abroad, for example, or
yeah, so
just
in the UK, and maybe some of the R&D is taking place in somewhere as if Asia, for example, would they still be as equally eligible for tax relief?
Not if it was part of the same company. If it was a subcontractor cost, so if they were subcontracting that company outside of the UK in order to be able to manufacture or fabricate for them, then we could look at it as a subcontractor cost. But if it's a UK company where their R&D activity is carried out somewhere else, then not necessarily, no.
Okay, thank you.
Then we would look at the accounts, and we would look at the group structure of the company. Again, you know, we find with some of those, the kind of companies that you're talking about, they're part of a larger group of companies. So that could potentially tip them into an RDEC claim that we obviously discussed, because we'd have to look at the figures for the whole group. So, but yeah, it can be a little bit complex when it gets into kind of that side of things. So that's why we've got an RDEC specialist.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to open up to everyone else. If there's any other questions, please raise your hand if there's anything you'd like to ask, or feel free to leave it in the chat. Any questions that anyone might have?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
I'm trying to raise the hand and I'm not seeing the hand.
Oh,
Can I go, Terry?
Rory, just go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually, mine is about if it's an individual is coming up with some kind of organic, starting up something. Is there a threshold on the kind of, is it a company specifically, or could that be an individual whereby they are coming up, people can come up with some innovation of some kind, which is improving on a particular product, but their product is actually, although it tries to imitate the one in the market, but actually it's different. Is that kind of, do you look into that as well, other than if they are individuals?
So no, if you're talking about sole traders, absolutely not. Because it's a corporation tax incentive, they do need to be a limited UK company liable to corporation tax. So sole traders and individuals would be a no.
Also, they would have to make up a company. It has to be a company in order for it. Okay, yeah, all right. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you, James, for your question. Is there anyone else who'd like to quickly ask? Yes, please, Moracle.
Just a quick one, Gina, clarification about the process from your end. I know a lot of clients out there will be thinking it's a long-winded way, a difficult process, you know, taking a lot of my time. I want to focus on my business, you know, and then you got the R&D guys taking all my time, you know, to be able to claim this. Would you be able to just explain, yes, the process to a layman point of view? Thank you.
Yeah, of course, no worries at all. So, you know, we try to make the process really as simple and straightforward as we possibly can for our clients. We appreciate that you've got businesses to run, and we do all the work for you. So obviously we do need a little bit of involvement of your time. So our process would be an initial conversation with myself or one of my team to basically qualify your R&D activity, to talk through a couple of projects and talk about loosely around the costings involved, etc. So we generally say that I'd usually be around 15 to 20 minutes with myself or one of my team. If we're happy that you qualify, at that point, we look to send out an engagement document to engage us to carry out the R&D claim for you and your business. After that, we look to book you in for a technical report call. This is with one of the financial analysts that I spoke about earlier. They're our tech guys. They know exactly what they're talking about. And you know, they know the guidelines for the scheme inside out and back to front, which is, so you're in super safe hands with them. We'd look to book in a call or a Teams meeting, however you prefer to do it, for around about an hour of your time. And that would be to really delve deeper into the projects that we have loosely discussed on our conversation. So the guys they're the guys that are writing your technical report for you. So HMRC do require a technical report which reports on some of your projects throughout whichever financial period we're speaking about. So we generally say HMRC only needs to see a snapshot of R&D activity, because we have some clients that, you know, especially in manufacturing, things like that, you do have maybe multiple projects over the financial period. So we generally say, let's talk about the most technically challenging projects. Let's talk about the biggest projects, the ones that were the real sort of, you know, hard work, and why they were technically challenging and advancing to your industry. So you'll just really open up with the financial analyst, really sort of get down into the nitty-gritty of where your R&D is. They'll be talking about what your technical uncertainties were, what were the problems that you faced, and how did you overcome those throughout the process. They would then take that information away and start drafting your technical report. At the same time, we would be gathering financial information from Moracle, if he's your accountant, or, you know, one of the other guys at Moracle, and we would then be sort of matching that up with the kind of percentages we can look at for costings that are related to R&D activity in your business. We generally say that sits with us for around about 2 to 3 weeks. We're completely open and transparent with everything. So we do send you the drafts of the technical reports. We appreciate that we're not necessarily in your industry as much as we might be specialists in your industry around R&D. There might be a few things that we get wrong, and we're all human. We're not 100% perfect. So that's your opportunity, or that's our opportunity to kind of go back and forth with the technical report if needed. So we would send it to you to say, why don't you have a little read of that? See if you, sorry, is that me getting feedback? Somebody not on mute, it's fine. So we could have a little bit of back and forth essentially, and you could sort of say, oh, okay, that's maybe not quite how I'd word it in our industry, but, you know, if you change it this and this. So again, that realistically shouldn't take up an awful lot of your time. It's just a case of having a little read through the project report and letting us know that you're happy with it. So right at the back end of the process, we generally ask for around about another 15 minutes of your time, again on another telephone call or Teams meeting, to do what we call deployments. And that would be when I spoke earlier about running through payroll and deciding the percentage of people's time that they'd attribute to R&D activity, etc. That would be the phone call that we would do that. So that's pretty much it, to be quite honest with you. After we've done the deployment call, we would get everything together for you. You would get final sign-off as the client, and then once that's signed off, we send it over to Moracle, who submits it to HMRC for us along with your CT600. And that's pretty much it. So the process, realistically with us, is that we generally say around about 2 to 3 hours across, from start to finish, across those few weeks that it kind of sits with us. Once it's in HMRC's hands, generally say around 4 to 6 weeks, and then you receive your benefit. And that's it. Simple. Simple and easy.
Thank you so much. I think we might just have time for just one more last question. So does anyone have one last question that they'd like to ask Gina, please? Feel free to just unmute your mic and begin speaking. Says anyone? I think if not, then I want to thank you so much, Gina, for joining us today and giving us a quick talk about R&D and tax reliefs. Thank you. It's been very insightful and very helpful to firms that, you know, want to start engaging more in research and development and how they can be rewarded for that. So I want to thank also everyone else that's here with us today for joining us for this webinar. It's been really lovely having you all. And with that, I think we'll close. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Gina. Thank you all.
Take care. Speak to you later, Moracle.
Yes, and bye-bye now. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.